The Galactic Council chamber floated in silence above the glowing rings of a blue gas giant. Dozens of alien delegates sat around the circular table, their voices low and uncertain. Holographic stars shimmered in the air between them, forming a map of known space. At the edge of the projection blinked a faint red signal. Origin: Earth. For 70 years, Earth had been quiet. Humanity's fleets were gone, their colonies crushed, their homeworld scarred. The Council had declared the human problem solved long ago. Yet that small blinking light, coded in an ancient Terran pattern, felt like a ghost returning. Ambassador Karoth of the Drenth looked around the chamber, his scaled face twisting with irritation. "Another human trick," he hissed. "Their species is extinct. This is nothing but interference from their dead satellites." But the Vren diplomat beside him leaned forward, her silver eyes narrowing. "Interference does not melt patrol ships, Karoth," she whispered. "We lost 2 cruisers near the Orion Arm last week. No distress calls, only static, and heat traces." The room darkened as the hologram changed. A fleet of Council ships appeared, then vanished one by one, their energy signatures fading into cold emptiness. No explosion, no debris, just silence. "Maybe pirates," another delegate muttered. "No pirates can erase an entire fleet," said High Chancellor Relin, his voice calm but strained. "This pattern is deliberate, controlled, calculated." The word calculated hung in the air like poison. Everyone knew only one species in galactic history had mastered such precision in war: humans. Far below the Council station, beyond the outer moons, something moved in the shadows of space. A fleet, massive, dark, and silent, drifted among the asteroids. Its hulls reflected no light. Its engines gave no heat. Each ship carried a single emblem burned into its armor, a shattered Earth surrounded by stars. Inside one of those ships, Captain Elias Ward stood before a viewing screen. The light of distant suns flickered across his scarred face. "Signal received?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir," replied his first officer, a woman with calm eyes and a voice hardened by years of exile. "The Council detected it exactly as planned." Ward nodded. "Good. Let them remember what they buried." The bridge crew said nothing more. They had waited decades for this moment, years hiding in the void, building new engines, forging weapons beyond alien understanding. Humanity's silence had not been surrender. It had been preparation. Back at the Council, the arguments grew louder. Some demanded investigation. Others insisted the humans were extinct and unworthy of fear. High Chancellor Relin raised his hand. "We will send a reconnaissance team, small and fast. If humans are truly behind this, we must know." But deep inside, even Relin felt the unease. Humanity had always been unpredictable. They had fought wars not for resources, but for principles. They had defied extinction before. As the meeting adjourned, the stars outside the Council window seemed darker than usual. The scout vessel Tyrell's Hope departed 2 hours later, heading for the source of the red signal. Its crew joked nervously, trying to calm their fear. "Humans can't do this," said the pilot. "They're gone. Their planet's a wasteland." "Maybe," said the captain, staring at the star map. "But sometimes ghosts don't stay dead." Hours later, they reached the coordinates. The space ahead looked empty, but sensors detected faint distortions, as if gravity itself were bending unnaturally. "Something's here," the navigator whispered. Then, without warning, space itself seemed to ripple. A black shape emerged, massive, triangular, silent. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal. The Tyrell's Hope sent a distress call that never reached the Council. The transmission ended mid-scream. At the same time, across the galaxy, old Terran beacons flickered to life, one after another. Long-dead satellites reactivated. Forgotten colonies began transmitting encrypted signals. Every pulse carried the same 3 words, repeated endlessly in binary: "We are awake." Back in the Council chamber, alarms blared. Relin rushed to the central display as data streamed in. Whole communication arrays had gone dark. Merchant routes were silent. "Report," he demanded. A trembling aide turned toward him. "Chancellor, something just appeared near the Centauri Rift. Hundreds of ships. No transponder codes. Energy readings off the charts. Whose fleet?" The aide swallowed. "Human." The chamber froze. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Across the void, Captain Ward watched the same region on his display. The old human flag appeared briefly, glitching through static, then stabilized. "Open channel," Ward said. The comms officer hesitated. Sir, are we revealing ourselves too soon? Ward's voice was steady. They took our world. They erased our name. Now they'll remember it. The officer nodded and sent the transmission. A single signal burst through the stars, short, cold, and final. To the Galactic Council, humanity has returned. In the council chamber, every delegate turned as the message played across the main screen. The voice was unmistakably human, calm, steady, and filled with something far colder than rage. For the first time in centuries, the council did not speak. They simply watched the stars beyond their window, where the dark shapes of ships began to gather like storm clouds. The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion, because the galaxy finally understood. Earth had never surrendered. It had only been waiting. The wreckage drifted in silence through the black sea of stars. Pieces of melted alloy and twisted hull fragments spun slowly, still glowing faintly with heat. A few escape pods floated among them, their distress beacons weak and fading. A council recovery ship, the Solon Star, arrived hours later. Its scanners swept across the debris, searching for survivors or clues. What they found instead sent a chill through the crew. Sir, said the sensor officer, his hands trembling over the console. These burn patterns, they don't match any known weapon. The captain frowned. Show me. A holographic model appeared, displaying a large cruiser split cleanly in half. No explosion. No plasma marks. The metal was sliced as if by invisible pressure. It looks like the hull was crushed, the officer whispered. From the inside out, the captain stared silently at the screen. In his long career, he had seen wars, supernovae, and planetary bombardments, but never this. He turned toward the window where the wreckage floated against the pale light of a nearby star. Send word to the council, he said quietly. Tell them the ghosts of Earth have learned new tricks. In the Galactic Council hall, panic replaced arrogance. Delegates shouted across the chamber, their voices overlapping. Reports of destroyed patrols poured in from multiple sectors. Ships went missing without any signs of combat. Communication relays blinked offline one after another. High Chancellor Reland stood at the center of the storm, gripping the edge of his desk. Enough, he roared, his voice amplified through the chamber. This chaos helps no one. He looked around the circle of delegates, their faces reflecting fear, guilt, and disbelief. We need proof. Are we certain this is humanity's doing? An intelligence officer stepped forward and placed a holographic recorder on the table. This transmission was found inside a damaged beacon near the Centauri Rift, he said. The device played a short video. A human figure appeared, helmeted, armored, standing in the smoke of a destroyed alien station. The voice that followed was calm, deliberate, almost mechanical. For 70 years you called us extinct. For 70 years we listened. Now we answer. The video ended abruptly. A cold silence filled the room. They're back, whispered one of the delegates. By the stars, they're back. Meanwhile, deep beyond council-controlled space, the lost fleet moved like shadows across the void. Thousands of ships, black, angular, and silent, formed up in perfect formation. Their hulls absorbed light, leaving no trace on sensors. At the center of the armada was the massive flagship, Erebus. Its bridge glowed faintly blue as Captain Elias Ward stared at the holographic star map before him. Every red dot on the display represented a system that had once belonged to humanity, and was now under alien control. His second-in-command, Commander Harlow, approached quietly. All systems are ready. Dark matter drive stable. The fleet awaits your command. Ward nodded slowly. 70 years in exile. 7 decades in silence. He turned to face his crew, his voice calm but heavy. They thought they buried us. But humans don't vanish. We adapt, we rebuild. And we remember. The crew saluted, their eyes cold with determination. Far away, on a small agricultural moon near the fringe, the first strike began. Council defense systems detected nothing until it was already too late. The ground shook. Lights dimmed. Then out of nowhere, enormous black ships appeared above the clouds, without warning, without sound. A farmer looked up from his field just as a beam of soft white light descended, not to destroy, but to disable. The alien military base nearby went dark in an instant. Engines died. Weapons failed. Ships fell from the sky like toys. Then came a voice through every comm channel, calm and unhurried. This is humanity's message. We seek no conquest. But we will no longer bow. The message repeated across hundreds of systems. Back in the council capital, chaos turned into terror. Delegates shouted for war, others begged for peace. Some accused one another of hiding information from the human war. The council's military commander, General Vrak, slammed his fist against the table. "We cannot negotiate with ghosts," he shouted. "We must strike now before they gain ground." High Chancellor Relin looked exhausted. "Strike where?" he asked quietly. "We don't even know where they are." At that moment, the lights flickered. The giant window overlooking the city dimmed as a shadow passed across the planet's orbit. Everyone turned toward the sky, and there it was. A ship, larger than anything ever built by the Council, emerged from hyperspace directly above the capital. Black as night, silent as death. Its engines glowed faintly blue, lighting up the clouds beneath it. The ship did not fire. It didn't need to. Just its presence was enough to silence a billion voices below. In the command deck of the Erebus, Captain Ward watched the feed from orbit. His voice was quiet, almost sad. "They look at us as monsters," he said softly. "But we came to remind them what they made." Commander Harlow stepped beside him. "Orders, sir?" Ward paused for a long moment. Then he said, "Transmit this frequency to every council system." She nodded. "Transmission ready." Ward spoke clearly into the channel. "We are humanity. We were betrayed, enslaved, erased. But we endured. We learned the language of the stars you built. And now we speak it better than you ever could." He leaned closer. "We don't want your empire. We only want your memory of what you did to us to never fade." The transmission ended. On the surface, the alien citizens stood frozen, staring at the enormous human ship hovering above their world. No bombs fell. No cities burned. Only silence and the hum of engines like thunder in the distance. And then, as quietly as it had come, the ship vanished, leaving only a faint distortion in the sky. The message had been delivered. The galaxy trembled. Not because humanity had returned, but because humanity had changed. The Galactic Council chamber, once filled with pride and order, now shook with fear. The holographic map in the center of the room flashed red in every direction, systems falling silent, fleets disappearing, colonies reporting strange black ships. The mighty council that once ruled half the galaxy suddenly looked like a room full of frightened children. High Chancellor Relin stood at the podium, his long robes rumpled, his voice strained. "We will restore control," he said, though even he did not believe it. "We are the council. We brought peace to the stars." From the back, an angry voice shouted, "Peace? You call it peace when you burned their world?" Dozens of alien diplomats turned toward the speaker. Admiral Vrak of the Kreth Dominion, his scales glowing red with rage. "You made enemies of the one species that never surrenders," he continued. "You should have finished the job." Relin slammed his staff down. "Enough." Humanity was a threat to all. The room lights flickered and every hologram froze. Then a new image replaced the map, the face of a human. Pale, sharp-eyed, calm. "You talk of peace," the voice said, "but you never understood it. We offered peace before. You answered with fire." The image blinked away. Silence fell again. The only sound was the hum of the generators beneath the floor. Hours later, in a secured chamber, the Council's intelligence division gathered. Reports streamed in, everyone worse than the last. 3 fleets gone, said an officer. No survivors. Their ships were pulled apart by gravity itself. Gravity? Relin asked. Yes, Chancellor. Their weapons manipulate mass directly. They use the same physics that hold planets together. Against us. Relin closed his eyes. Dark matter engineering. A forbidden science one humanity had begun to study before their fall. The Council had banned it. But the humans, and they had finished it. How many worlds are affected? Relin asked. The officer hesitated. More every hour. They strike and vanish. No occupation. No demands. Then what do they want? No one answered. In the shadowed corridors of the Erebus, Captain Ward watched footage from the Council's panicked broadcasts. He stood with hands behind his back as the alien leaders shouted at one another across the chamber screens. Commander Harlow approached quietly. They're scattering fleets, sir. Dividing their forces. Ward nodded. As expected. They still don't know our numbers. That's the point, Ward said. Fear works faster than fire. Harlow looked at him for a moment. Sir, are we truly going to fight them all? Ward's expression hardened. We're not fighting, Commander. We're reminding. They erased our people's name. We'll carve it back into their memory. He turned toward the viewing glass where hundreds of dark matter cruisers drifted like silent mountains across the void. Prepare Phase 2, he said. Let them taste what they gave us. In the Council's capital city, riots had begun. News channels played human messages over and over, 3 words that echoed through every system. We are awake. Civilians panicked. Trade routes collapsed. Even military officers refused orders. Some planets declared neutrality. Others prepared to surrender without a fight. Chancellor Relan called for another emergency meeting, but only half of the delegates arrived. The rest had fled to their home systems. This is madness, cried the Vren diplomat, her voice trembling. You told us humans were finished. Relan's voice cracked. They were. We destroyed their fleets. A hologram appeared beside him. The Admiral of the 5th Defense Fleet. His face was pale and sweating. Chancellor, he said, we've engaged the enemy near Vega Prime. Status? The Admiral swallowed. We fired first. Hundreds of torpedoes. None hit their ships. Turned the missiles around. What? They reflected gravity, Chancellor. Our own weapons came back at us. The hologram flickered, then died. Relan stared at the empty space where the Admiral's image had been. Around him, murmurs turned to screams. We cannot win. Negotiate! Evacuate the capital. But before anyone could agree, the great window of the chamber darkened. A shadow fell across the city again. The same ship, Erebus, returned. This time it descended closer. Its hull blotted out the sun. The chamber shook as shockwaves rolled through the planet's upper atmosphere. Every delegate ran to the window. Across the city's sky, words began to appear, projected by massive human holograms in every language of the Council. You took our skies. We took your silence. You burned our home. We built a storm. Now the debt is due. Relan fell to his knees. Dear stars, he whispered. Inside the Erebus, Captain Ward watched the transmission spread through the galaxy. Harlow stood beside him. They're panicking, she said softly. Ward didn't smile. His voice was low. Good, panic makes them remember fear. And from fear comes understanding. He turned to communications. Begin open channel broadcast. Ready, sir? Ward faced the camera, his expression calm and controlled. To the Galactic Council, he said. You once called yourselves gods. You ruled through fear. You destroyed Earth believing it would end us. But you only forged us. In darkness, we became something else. He paused, letting the silence stretch. We have no wish to conquer. But we will never kneel again. Every world you took from us, we remember. Every city you burned, we remember. Every human you enslaved, we remember. He leaned forward slightly. Now it's your turn to remember us. The message cut off. In the council chamber, no one spoke. The words echoed in their minds long after the transmission ended. Relan stood slowly. His voice was hoarse. Send envoys, he said. Find them. Talk to them. Do whatever it takes, but deep down he knew it was too late. Humanity didn't want talks. Humanity wanted truth. Above the trembling capital, the human fleet vanished again, leaving behind nothing but silence and fear. And far across the galaxy, countless eyes turned toward the stars, wondering the same thing. If this was only the beginning, what would humanity do next? The Centauri rift burned like a wound across the stars, a deep stretch of torn space glowing with unstable light. The Galactic Council's largest armada waited there, over 3,000 warships, each bristling with cannons and shields. It was the most powerful military force ever gathered. High Admiral Vrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Sovereign Flame, watching the fleets align in perfect formation. He felt confident. The Council's scientists had spent weeks studying the human attacks. They believed they could predict the next strike. Humans are clever, Vrak said, his claws tapping on the railing, but predictable. They will come here. They always return to their old colonies. His second officer nodded. If they come, Admiral, they will meet their end. Vrak smiled. Then let the galaxy see what happens to ghosts who challenge the living. Light years away, deep inside the void, the Erebus and her fleet emerged from stealth. Human ships spread across the darkness like a black tide, silent, cold, invisible. Captain Ward stood at the command platform, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. The Centauri rift glowed red on the map, surrounded by enemy icons. Commander Harlow stepped forward. "Their fleets are ready, sir." "They're waiting for us," Ward nodded slowly. "Good. Then they'll be watching the wrong direction." He turned to the helm. "Engage dark matter drive. Vector shift, 3.2. Bring us through the rift's shadow." The ships moved. They slid into the gravitational storm like blades disappearing into mist. Static filled the comms. Even the stars vanished. To the alien sensors, space looked empty. But behind the distortions of the rift, the human fleet formed into a silent wall. Hours passed. Then a single human signal cut through the static. "We are here." The Council's long-range sensors exploded with alerts. "Contact," shouted an operator on the Sovereign Flame. Unidentified signatures, dozens, maybe hundreds, appearing behind the rift. Vrak's jaw tightened. "All ships open fire!" "Don't wait for visual confirmation." The sky turned white. Thousands of plasma bolts ripped through space, burning trails across the void. But none hit their mark. Then, out of the light, the human fleet appeared. Sleek, black, terrifying. Each ship glowed faintly with blue-white energy, as if space itself bent around their hulls. "They're distorting gravity fields," yelled a technician. "Our targeting systems can't lock." Vrak growled. "Then fire blind." "Fill the void." His order was obeyed. The Council's fleet unleashed everything it had. But when the light faded, the humans were gone. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then the Council's outer line of destroyers began to vanish, one by one disappearing into invisible implosions. "What is happening?" cried Vrak. "Gravitational compression! They're folding our ships!" Across the rift, space itself seemed to ripple. The human fleet reappeared, but this time every ship moved with perfect silent coordination. The Erebus opened fire. No noise. No explosion. Just light. A cold, blinding light that bent the stars themselves. Alien ships broke apart mid-flight, their metal bodies stretching like liquid. The Council's forces fired back, desperate. Some missiles struck human ships, but instead of exploding, they slowed, reversed direction, and shot back toward their senders. "Impossible," shouted Vrak. On the Erebus, Commander Harlow watched as the battle unfolded like a storm. "We could finish them now, sir," she said. "One more volley." Ward shook his head. "Don't leave survivors. Fear travels faster than death." He activated the comm channel. "To all Council fleets," Ward said. His voice echoed across every ship, every world. "We are not invaders. We are the mirror you made. Look at what you taught us." The message repeated as the human ships advanced. On the Sovereign Flame, Vrak stood frozen. His bridge was collapsing. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Screens flickered and died. Through the viewport, he saw his remaining ships burning, drifting helplessly into the rift's chaos. And then, for the first time, he saw the Erebus, close enough to dwarf his entire fleet. A single beam of blue light extended from its bow, connecting to his ship. No weapon fired. No demand came. A human hologram appeared before him. Captain Ward himself. "Hi, Admiral Vrak," Ward said calmly. "We remember your face. You were there when Earth burned." Vrak's throat tightened. "I followed orders." "The Council ordered genocide," Ward interrupted. "Now you will live to remember it." The hologram faded. Moments later, the Sovereign Flame's engines powered down. Its crew stood paralyzed as the human ships turned away, leaving them adrift in silence. Hours later, transmissions from the battle reached the Council's capital. The reports were unbelievable and undeniable. 72% of the Council armada destroyed. 0 human losses reported. The rift itself had stabilized, reshaped by unknown human technology. The Council chamber erupted once more. Not with anger this time, but with despair. "They could have destroyed us all," whispered the Vren diplomat. "Why didn't they?" High Chancellor Relin said nothing. He stared at the holographic replay of the battle, thousands of alien ships breaking apart under invisible pressure. Finally he spoke. "Because this was not a war," he said softly. "It was a message." Far away aboard the Erebus, Captain Ward looked out at the quiet stars. The rift burned faintly behind them, marking the place where humanity had made its stand. Commander Harlow stepped beside him. "We've proven our strength, sir." "What now?" Ward's voice was calm. "Now we show them something they've forgotten." She tilted her head. Mercy? Ward nodded. Yes, mercy. The kind only the strong can afford. He turned to the helm. Signal all fleets. We withdraw. As the human armada disappeared into the void once again, the stars slowly returned to peace. But the galaxy would never forget what had happened at the Centauri Rift. For the first time in history, the Galactic Council understood true fear, and for the first time, humanity held the power to forgive. The galaxy was silent. After the Battle of the Centauri Rift, no one spoke of victory or defeat. Every world that had once laughed at Earth now whispered its name with fear. Human ships had vanished again into the dark, leaving wreckage and confusion behind. But their message, clear, calm, and terrifying, still echoed in every system. We do not seek war, but we will never kneel again. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Council was afraid of silence. It meant humanity was still watching. In the capital city of Arendor Prime, the council chamber was half empty. Dozens of seats lay abandoned. Whole species had withdrawn from the alliance, fearing human retaliation. The few who remained argued endlessly, their voices sharp with panic. They destroyed our fleets but left our worlds intact, shouted one ambassador. Why? What do they want? They want us to live in fear, another replied. Humans thrive on it. They've always been a violent race. High Chancellor Rellan slammed his staff against the floor. Enough! They are not monsters. They are sending us a message. Can't you see it? The chamber went quiet. Rellan's voice softened. They could have ended us, but they didn't. That means they want something else. He turned toward the massive window overlooking the city's skyline, where distant stars glimmered faintly. Find out what they're trying to say, before it's too late. Light years away aboard the Erebus, Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge staring at the same stars. His reflection shimmered faintly in the glass. Behind him, Commander Harlow approached with a datapad. Reports from the outer colonies, she said. They've stopped resisting. Some worlds are even opening communication channels again. Ward nodded slowly. Good. They're beginning to understand. She hesitated. Sir, some of our captains think we should press the advantage. Take the council capital. End it for good. Ward didn't turn. End it? No, Commander. That's what they would have done. He looked back at her, his voice low and calm. We don't need to burn their world. We already burned their pride. Across the galaxy, the Council's propaganda machines tried to twist the truth. They released statements calling the human attacks isolated incidents, terrorist actions, rogue AI fleets. But ordinary citizens had seen the truth with their own eyes. They had seen the black ships blot out the stars. On the streets of countless worlds, murals began to appear, painted by unknown hands. A human silhouette standing before a shattered planet. Beneath it, 3 words glowed in red. We are awake. At the same time, a strange transmission began spreading across the networks. Soft music mixed with human speech, calm and haunting. It was the same in every language. We forgive, but we do not forget. It reached worlds that had never even met a human. It reached children who asked their teachers who were they. Why do they sound so sad? Some species began to question the Council's rule. Protests erupted. Statues of old Council heroes were torn down and replaced by small candles, tributes to humanity. And yet, humanity remained invisible. Inside the Erebus, Ward stood before a large holographic map of the galaxy. Red lights showed the systems that had fallen into chaos. Blue lights, small, flickering, showed systems sending messages of peace. Play the most recent one, Ward ordered. A soft voice filled the bridge. It belonged to a young alien woman. To the humans who can hear us, we were not part of the war. We were children when your world burned. Please talk to us. Ward's eyes softened. She speaks for the new generation, he said quietly. They aren't guilty of their ancestors' crimes. Harlow nodded. Then what will you do? He straightened his posture. We'll answer her. Not with weapons, this time with truth. The next day, the galaxy trembled again, but not from fear. Every communication system across the stars activated simultaneously. Every holoscreen, every radio, every ship broadcast the same image, the human flag. Then Captain Ward appeared, calm, steady, his eyes sharp, but not cruel. This message is for every species who listens, he began. We were once part of your galaxy. We were weak, naive, and we trusted your promises of peace. You destroyed our cities, silenced our voices, and erased our name. But you failed to erase our will." He paused. The stars behind him shimmered like fire. "We do not want your worlds. We do not want your power. We only want your memory. To remember that we were here, that we fought, and that we endured." He leaned closer. "The galaxy belongs to all who can protect it, not those who think they own it." The message ended. Across the stars, the reaction was immediate. Some cried. Some cursed. Some simply stared in silence. But none could deny it. The humans had spoken with more dignity than the Council ever had. On hundreds of worlds, people began lighting small blue beacons at night. They called them Earthlights, a symbol of endurance, a quiet apology to the species they once tried to erase. Even within the Council capital, soldiers laid down their weapons. Some whispered that perhaps the humans were right, that peace was not something to rule over, but something to earn. In the command bridge of the Erebus, Commander Harlow approached Ward one last time. "It worked," she said softly. "They're listening now." Ward gave a small smile, the first in years. "Good, that means we've already won." She looked at him. "What happens next?" He gazed into the endless dark beyond the window. "Now we disappear again," he said. "Let them rebuild. Let them remember." The engines hummed. The stars began to bend as the Erebus prepared to jump. Before the fleet vanished into the void, Ward spoke quietly, more to the stars than to his crew. "This is humanity's final message. We are awake. We are watching. But we have chosen mercy." The ship disappeared into light, leaving behind only silence. But across the galaxy, billions of hearts continued to whisper the same three words that had changed everything. "We are awake." The Galactic Council chamber had never been this quiet. Once it was a place of pride, full of voices, arrogance, and laughter. Now it was a hollow shell. Many seats were empty, covered in dust. Whole species had withdrawn, choosing silence over confrontation. Those who remained sat in uneasy stillness, their eyes fixed on the vast holographic screen that floated above the center of the room. For days, the same signal had been playing across the galaxy, humanity's voice. "We are awake. We have chosen mercy." And yet mercy terrified them more than war ever had. High Chancellor Rellan stood alone at the central podium, the glow of dying stars reflecting off his tired face. He had aged in months what should have taken years. Every decision, every lie about humanity's destruction now weighed on his shoulders. He turned to his aides. "Have we received any word from the human envoy?" "Not yet, Chancellor," one replied nervously. "They said they would arrive at noon." Rellan looked toward the massive window overlooking the sky. "Then pray they come in peace." The hour struck. The entire planet trembled. The clouds above the capital began to swirl, and the light dimmed as something vast moved across the sun. Gasps echoed through the city as every citizen looked up. The shadow stretched across oceans and mountains. The human flagship Erebus had returned, larger than any structure the Council had ever built, silent as a god descending. Its hull shimmered black and blue, reflecting every ray of light like liquid metal. From its surface descended smaller vessels, drifting slowly toward the Council tower. Panic rippled through the guards. Weapons powered up, alarms blared. But Rellan raised his hand. "Stand down. If they wanted us dead, we'd already be ash." The smaller craft landed in the plaza below. The doors opened. Out stepped the human delegation. They were not monsters, nor glowing beings of myth, just men and women in dark, sleek armor, their movements calm and disciplined. At their front walked a tall man with gray hair and a steady gaze, Captain Elias Ward. He carried no weapon, only a data tablet glowing faintly in his hand. As he entered the chamber, every alien in the room felt the same strange thing. Gravity seemed heavier. Not from machines, but from his presence. Rellan swallowed hard. "Captain Ward of Earth, welcome back to the Council." Ward stopped in the center of the chamber. "We were never gone, Chancellor. You simply stopped listening." The words hit harder than any weapon. For a long moment, there was silence. Then Rellan spoke again. "You have made your power clear. The galaxy knows your strength. What do you want from us?" Ward looked up at the holographic ceiling, where stars shimmered faintly. "What we always wanted," he said softly. "Respect, justice, truth." He held up the data tablet. "These are the names of every human world destroyed under your orders. Every child burned, every colony erased. We have their voices, their final transmissions. You erased their history from your archives. We restored it. He placed the tablet on the central platform and the chamber lights dimmed. Holograms filled the air. Not of war, but of faces. Human faces. Farmers, soldiers, scientists, children. Their voices echoed softly. If anyone hears this, tell them we tried. We believed peace was possible. Don't let them forget us. One by one, the images faded into the stars. Some of the delegates began to weep quietly. Others turned away, unable to face the truth. Rellen's voice trembled. Why show us this? Ward's eyes were steady. Because you believed our silence meant weakness. But silence is how we remember. We chose not to become you. He turned to the council seats. We could have destroyed you all. You know that now. But we didn't. Because humanity learned something in the dark. Power means nothing without mercy. He stepped closer to Raylan. That is the lesson we bring back to your galaxy. One of the alien generals stood, his voice breaking. And what of justice? What of the billions we lost in return? You call this mercy? Ward turned toward him slowly. You call it mercy when the powerful spare the weak. We call it balance. You reap what you sow. The general fell silent. Rellan bowed his head. What happens now? Ward looked toward the massive window where the Erebus hovered above the city like a second moon. Now we leave, Ward said. We will not rule. We will not destroy. We will watch. The council will decide what kind of galaxy it wishes to be, with or without fear. Rellan's voice cracked. And if we fall back into old ways? Ward's expression didn't change. Then you'll see the stars darken again. He turned to leave but paused at the doorway. Remember this moment, Chancellor. The day humanity stood here not as conquerors, but as witnesses. When the humans departed, the sky grew bright again. The great ship lifted silently into the heavens, leaving only wind and whispers in its wake. Across the galaxy, that moment was broadcast to every world, the council kneeling before a single human voice. Children of 100 species watched and asked their parents, who were they? And the parents answered quietly, the ones we could not break. Inside the Erebus, Captain Ward stood at the observation deck, watching the planet shrink below. Commander Harlow approached, her voice gentle. Do you think they'll change? Ward didn't answer for a moment. Then he said, maybe. Fear fades fast. But memory lasts longer. He looked out at the endless stars. We'll give them time. We've had enough war. Now the galaxy needs to learn what peace feels like again. Harlow smiled faintly. And if they don't? Ward's eyes glimmered in the dim light. Then we remind them. The Erebus turned slowly, engines igniting like blue suns. The vast human fleet followed, thousands of ships vanishing into the void one by one. And as they disappeared beyond the rim of known space, a single transmission echoed across the stars, reaching every world, every heart that had once doubted humanity's return. We are awake. We forgive, but we never forget, the message repeated once. Then silence returned, but that silence no longer meant fear. It meant respect. It meant history had changed forever, because on that day the galaxy learned the truth. Earth had never fallen. Humanity had only risen too far for them to see.